Welcome to Nerdy and Flirty, a podcast designed to help you create a life that you love. It's nerdy with science-backed information, and it's flirty. It's fun, it's quick, it's straight to the point. My name is Cass, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, we are talking about something so relatable, so validating, so real, and that is the art of saying no. Today, I am going to give you all the tips, all the tricks on how to say no and not feel bad about it. Even though no is just a 2-letter word and it sounds so simple, it is one of the hardest things in the English language to say. But saying no is one of the most important skills to possess if you actually want to live with autonomy and self-direction in your own life. I really need you to hear me on this. If you are saying yes to everyone else, you are not saying yes to yourself. And I really, really need you to hear that. If you are saying yes to everyone else, you don't have room to say yes to yourself. You don't have space to say yes to yourself. Saying no is hard though. I feel like a lot of us have this people-pleasing tendency where we don't want to make other people feel bad. We don't want to make other people uncomfortable. So we would rather spend 5 hours at some event that we don't want to be at rather than spend 5 seconds telling someone no. And trust me, I get it. But when you put it like that, it sounds so silly. For some reason in our heads, that 5 seconds of telling someone no is so much harder, and we'd rather just sit at some event we don't want to be at because it's easier to make ourselves unhappy. It's easier to make ourselves uncomfortable than tell someone else that we don't want to do something. But over time doing this, every single time it happens, I feel like we all regret it. I know, and you know, that there have been events or social settings or things that you were invited to that you knew you didn't want to go to. You went anyway, and you're miserable the entire time you're there. I know I've done that, and it always makes me so angry at myself because I didn't listen to my own judgment. This repeated behavior breaks down your self-confidence and breaks down your self-trust. If you are consistently doing this, you're telling yourself that your own feelings, your own boundaries, your own opinions don't matter at the expense of someone else's comfort level. And I'm here to tell you that that needs to get erased from our mindsets completely. You are not selfish for not wanting to go to some social event that you don't want to go to. You're not selfish for not wanting to do things that you don't like or don't align with you. And this actually brings me to my next point, because not only do we feel pressure from other people, but we put this pressure on ourselves to say yes to everything. I see it everywhere that everyone says, especially our 20s, are the time to say yes to everything. Everyone says that in your 20s, this is the time to travel and hustle and do all the social things and do everything you possibly can in your 20s. And on part of this, I agree, because we have the least amount of responsibilities we're going to have in our 20s, most likely. So that is a plus. But something that I think doesn't get talked about enough is that not every single opportunity is going to align with you, and that is okay. You don't have to take every single opportunity just because it's there. If anything, I think there's more benefit in taking opportunities that truly align with you and are authentic for you and like on brand, as I'm doing quotation marks, rather than just taking something just because it's there. I honestly think there's more to be said for people that do things that genuinely align with them rather than just taking whatever comes first because it's an opportunity. And I think this goes for everything. This goes for jobs. This goes for relationships. Rather than just taking whatever's there because it's an opportunity, really think about, is this something you genuinely want? Is this something that genuinely aligns with what you want in this life, your purpose, your skills, whatever the case is, whatever the opportunity is? Not every opportunity is created equally, and not everything is going to fit you, and that is totally okay. I feel this pressure on myself to say yes to everything because I feel like I should say yes to everything. But every single time that I do that, I end up feeling burnout because it's not sustainable to say yes to everyone all the time. And 2, I feel not fully aligned with myself because I'm too focused on doing what everyone else wants to do or what everyone else says I should do. And that is just not a way to live your life, in my opinion. I was listening to Mel Robbins' new podcast. She has an episode about 13 things she wishes she knew about her 20s. It is so amazing. Shout out to my friend Tess who sent it to me. It is probably one of the best podcast episodes I've ever listened to ever. And one of the things she said was stop pretending you like things that you don't. That hit me like a brick wall. You don't have to pretend that you like things just because everyone else is doing them. If you don't like to go to dive bars, don't go to dive bars just because your friends are going. If you decide you don't want to drink one night, don't drink one night. If you'd rather do artsy things like comedy shows or Broadway shows over going to a sports game, don't go to the sports game. Like, why are we spending our time, our money, our energy on things that we don't want to do? And if you're worried about FOMO or your friends judging you because you don't want to go, I hate to break it to you, but no one's really focused on if you're going or not. I know in the moment it seems like the world's going to end if you're not going to this sports game or whatever outing is happening. But once you say no, like, it goes on. The world goes on. The world keeps spinning and everything ends up fine. Your friends have fun. You have fun doing whatever you genuinely want to do. And the world goes on. You'll see them at the next one. I have an example about this. This happened like a month and a half ago-ish. One of my friends texted in our group chat of all girls and was like, let's meet at this bar at this time. It was a Friday. It was super spontaneous. And so I'm thinking, at least some people aren't going to want to go. I was on my couch. I was in my sweatpants. I already committed in my head that I was going to hang out at home, have a chill, productive night, right? But then to my surprise, everyone in the chat is like, oh, I'm so down. I'm so down. I'm so down. I'll be there. I'm so down. Can't wait. Can't wait. Can't wait. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the only person that doesn't want to do this. So I'm sitting there like, oh, please someone say that they're not going. No one says it. So then I'm like, I can't be the only person not going. So I say, okay, I'll be there. I get off the couch. I get dressed. I put makeup on. I do my hair. I do the whole thing. I get into the car. I'm driving to the bar. The bar was 25 minutes from my house. I drive 20 of the 25 minutes. The entire time, I'm like, I do not want to do this. I don't want to do this. I was already ready. I already did all the prep work. And I'm still like, I don't want to go to this. 20 minutes out of the 25-minute drive. I called my mom. I was hoping that she would tell me not to go. She doesn't answer. So I call my boyfriend, hoping that he'll tell me, oh, just turn around. You don't have to go. He doesn't answer. So I'm like, what the heck? I'm literally sitting in a bank parking lot wondering if I should drive the rest of the 5 minutes or just drive home. And ultimately, I was like, why am I waiting for someone else to give me permission? I genuinely do not want to go to this. I was having so much anxiety about it. I just did not want to go. So I turned around and went home. I drove literally 40 minutes for nothing, put makeup on, did my hair for nothing. I got home, put my sweatpants on, and immediately I felt relief. I felt so much more at ease. I felt proud of my decision. And I was like, why would I ever say yes to a plan that I know I didn't want to go to just to make other people feel happy? And I talked to my girlfriends about it and I told them this exact story. They totally understood because they're amazing. And the next day we talked about the night and I didn't miss a single thing. They had fun, I had fun, and it was all fine. It was literally all fine. It's going to be fine. Life gets easier when you actually keep commitments to yourself and you actually trust in yourself to do what you genuinely want to do and live authentically. Before my friends texted in that group chat, I made a commitment to myself that I was going to stay home and have a productive day the next day. I knew I didn't want to go out. So why would I break that commitment to myself just to be someone that doesn't say no to people? That just seems silly in my opinion. So now I want to get into some of my favorite phrases or ways to say no that come across much gentler, because you don't have to be an asshole to say no. You don't have to say no in such a harsh way, just N-O period. Sometimes there are benefits to saying it in that hard boundary, but a lot of times you can say it so much gentler, so much nicer. People will understand where you're coming from and everyone will get a win-win out of it. My first way of saying no, and this is literally my favorite way, is to just not commit right away or not commit too far in advance. I like to use this when someone springs plans on me spontaneously, because in the moment I feel all excited about it and I want to say yes because in the moment it sounds so good. But then you know that feeling when you hear something and then you drive home and you're like, why did I agree to that? This is to avoid that situation. I will literally say, that sounds like so much fun. I'll let you know soon, period. That sounds like so much fun. I will let you know soon. That is my favorite phrase because you're not saying yes. You're not saying no. You're keeping the door open because it does sound fun. You're showing that you're genuinely interested. You're genuinely considering going. But you give yourself time to at least go home and think about it. Give yourself a day to think about it, and then you can let them know. Similar to that, you can say, I need to check my calendar or need to check my schedule. That one's good, but for me, I always feel like I'm lying if I say that because I have my schedule on my phone and I don't want to feel pressured to like check it right away and tell them. So I always just say, that sounds like so much fun. I'll let you know soon. And then I let them know when I think about it. I thank myself every single time I use that phrase because there are so many times where I'll be invited to something and in the moment it just sounds so good. And then as soon as I really think about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds like a nightmare. I do not want to do that. Along those lines, you can always just say, I have plans that night, but thank you so much for the invite. Have so much fun. Or if you don't have plans, like I don't like to lie and say I have plans if I don't have plans. So sometimes I'll just say, I already made a plan with myself that I'm doing X, Y, and Z tonight, but thank you so much for the invite. I used this on Friday. One of my friends was like, we should go to this place. And it was super spontaneous. It was last minute. But I told myself after work that I was going to deep clean the house. I was going to repot my plants. I had all these things in my head that I wanted to do. And genuinely, like I cannot focus on going out and having fun if I have in my head that I want to do all these things on my to-do list. To me, that is fun. Like to me, I wanted to deep clean. I wanted to repot my plants. I was looking forward to it all week. That's all I wanted to do. And you can just say, oh, I already made plans with myself to do X, Y, and Z that night. When it comes to saying no in a work setting, this one can get tricky because you don't want to burn bridges. You don't want to start problems and like ruffle feathers. But for example, if you're getting a bunch of projects or a bunch of clients or a bunch of things that you just can't handle all the workload, something that I like to say when I would get like a lot of opportunities, but there was just too many of them, is I would say, thank you so much for thinking of me for this. Right now my workload is at capacity, but I have some other recommendations that I can give to you to do XYZ job. Or when my schedule frees up, I would love to talk about this again in the future. That way you're keeping the door open for more opportunities because you don't want to close things down. But if you're genuinely at capacity or you genuinely have too much on your plate, it's not a good idea to take more things on that you can't genuinely commit to anyway. So I like that phrase to use in the work setting. The biggest thing when it comes to saying no is being firm and being confident in your decision to say no, and no one's going to question you. I literally said no to plans because I wanted to repot my plants, and my friends didn't question me at all. And one, it's because they respect me and they respect our friendship, but also I'm just matter of fact about it. There's no question about it. There's no other option. This is what I'm doing and this is how it's going to be, and that's that. Most people respect when you say no. Of course, there are people that don't and they suck. But most people are going to understand if you have a lot on your plate, if you want to spend time by yourself, if you have other plans. Most people are going to understand. But being honest about it and communicating up front is always going to set you up better when you're saying no. You don't want to be one of those people that just flakes all the time and becomes unreliable. If you need to flake here and there because you're overwhelmed or things are going on, that's different. But for the most part, if you're flaking all the time, that is way worse than just saying no up front. And that's something I try to remind myself of. Like the story I just told you with my friends, I don't ever want to be in that situation again because they all thought I was coming. And that to me is worse than just saying no originally. So if you know you're not going to want to do something, say no up front. Let everyone know up front. I think one of the worst things is when you flake and flake and flake and flake and flake and then people can't count on you. Saying no is so much more respected when you say it up front, when you're honest about it, when you communicate well. It doesn't have to be this like big ordeal. It just is what it is, you know? And then the last thing is if you want to be someone that can say no well, I think it also starts with being someone that receives no well. If someone says no to you, respect it and don't take it personally. 99% of the time, it's not personal to you. It's usually because of the plans or their own energy levels or their own stress levels, things like that. So don't take it personally and don't pressure people to say yes to you all the time. I always appreciate the friends that will offer plans but say, don't feel pressured, it was just an idea, something along those lines. I try really hard to do that with my friends and kind of just keep the door open, that if my friends don't want to do something, they can say no and no one gets their feelings hurt. I'm lucky that my friend circle is like that, where even if we make plans and someone cancels, no one's really getting mad because we just understand how it is. That's how friendships should be. But it's also important, even with like strangers or acquaintances or people you're trying to get close to, keep that door open. Don't make people feel pressured to do things that they don't want to do. Say the plans up front. When you ask someone if they're free, tell them why you're asking if they're free. Don't just say, hey, are you free, to trap them. Like, get the plans, tell them what's going on and let them decide. Just like how you would want to decide when you're in that situation. Remember, if you're saying yes to everyone else, you're not saying yes to yourself. I hope that you start practicing your no and saying no to things that you don't want to do. You're not selfish for not wanting to say yes to everyone and everything. Thank you so much for listening. Send this to your favorite people pleaser friend or someone that you think would benefit from saying no more in their life. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day and a great week. I will talk to you next week. Bye.